From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your evening update.
All right, happy Sunday evening to you. It's been a fairly active weekend. It feels that way. I mean, Saturday, a lot of thunderstorms. It was just no fun when we're talking about those thunderstorms that we did see out there Saturday. Not nearly as active today as it was yesterday. So that certainly is some very good news. Now, before we get into the fire tracker, because there are a lot of elements we'll be talking about. In fact, I say this, pop up some popcorn, sit back and watch this weathercast because we've got a lot to talk about and it's going to take a while. So let's get right into it. And again, before we start talking about the fires, one thing I want to mention here is that there are a lot of evacuation watches and warnings. I want you to go to weathernorcal.com at your earliest convenience and go to the fire section. From there, you can tap on any of the fires to get any of the latest information. Now, when you tap on any of the fires, it will give you the evacuation watches and warnings for that particular fire. So be sure to check that out. Now, if you don't want to check out the fire, you can scroll down a little bit lower in the fire page, and it has where all the evacuation watches and warnings are. And if you're concerned about the closures, at least for Caltrans, you can go to the road conditions section of the website, and you can check out to see where the road closures are, at least for the highways. All right, so let's get you right to it. Something I've added new to this, you see these little shades of red? That's the latest activity that satellite radar that the satellite has detected. The yellow is older data, approximately 24 hours old, and then of course it gets older and older. So the red, that's the most recent data where we've seen the most activity with the fire. So that's just kind of give you an idea what we're looking at. You can also see the fire perimeter in red right here. So there's the fire perimeter that we're still looking at. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm taking the distance from the closest perimeter of the fire perimeter to these particular towns. That's what we're looking at when we're talking distance. Keep in mind, this is just an overall, kind of just to give you an overall idea of how far the fire perimeter is from you. There's Syed Valley, 7.5 miles, and it's Happy Camp that's more concerned about the Malone fire at about 6.2 miles. Let's take you to the south. Now, the south end of the fire here, you're looking at Wairika, 17.3, 12.4 miles from Fort Jones, and there you can see all the way down to Etna, about 20.9 miles. Now, what's closer is the Scott fire here. It's been fairly active. You can see most of the entire perimeter is red, indicating a fairly active fire, and it's about 14.2 miles from Etna. Let's take it to the south where we've got the deep fire. You'll notice the north end of the fire not as active today. It's mainly to the south end of the fire. It has moved closer to the Trinity Alps Resort. Firefighters have indicated that they have certainly taken necessary precautions to help to help preserve and protect the Trinity Alps Resort. And then, of course, you can see all the distances here from Coffee Creek, Trinity Center, and not to mention Covington Mill. Here's Highway 299, over 10 miles from Helena, Junction City, and Weaverville. All right, take you out to the north and west. You've got the Smith River Complex, a lot of different fires kind of within that complex. So what I've done is I've taken each of the perimeters that are closest to these communities, and once again, this is where you get all of these numbers, about 15.8 miles from Crescent City. Let's take you off to the east of that. There's a look at the Idlewild. There you can kind of see on the outer perimeter here is where it's been most active, not to mention the south, but not as active, kind of where it actually the fire kind of started, quite honestly. We take a look at the Perch fire. We now have an official fire perimeter just east of Orleans at 2.5 miles. There you can see the perimeter here, and it's been fairly active with the most of the fire at this point. There you can see the Bluff complex off to the north and west, not as active on the southeast side. Hoopa, there you can see not as active with the Lone Pine fire here, but that perimeter is 2.5 miles from Hoopa. Where it's been more active is on the south side of the fire, 4.4 miles from Willow Creek. Let's take you to the south of that where we've got the Pilot fire. There's Hyam Palm. Fairly active for most of the fire here, 6.2 miles from the closest perimeter to Hyam Palm, 12.6 miles from Mad River, and there you can see Dinsmore, 9.7 miles. Okay, let's take you out to the north and west. We've got the Lost Fire, and you can see the perimeters are about 2.8 from Barry Glen and Oric, about 4.4. Notice the west side of the fire, the yellow indicating it hasn't been active, or not as active in the last 24 hours. More active here on the center and east side of the Lost Fire, which is 5.2 miles from Johnson. All right, so we got through the fires. let's talk about the forecast now and rain in the forecast. Unfortunately, thunderstorms are still in the forecast, and a lot of it has to do with, you've probably been hearing about Hurricane Hillary. So here's the deal. Hillary will bring rain and thunderstorms on Monday for almost all of Northern California, with the exception of the coast. The coast, not going to see much out of this, and you'll see that here in a second. But for the inland areas, for Trinity County, much cooler this week. I think you're going to be looking at much cooler temperatures, much more pleasant around here. And I'm also tracking less thunderstorm activity. It's so wonderful to be able to say something like that because it's been so active over the last 7 days or so. Here's what we have in store for us tonight. We do have more showers eventually entering the picture here, but not until really the afternoon. There you can see the isolated showers. And don't let that scare you too much. Yes, I've got some thunderstorms in there, but it's not going to be as active as it has been. But we are going to be looking at that rain out there, and there could be some strong thunderstorms in some areas. But there you can see the chances for showers and thunderstorms all day long for Trinity County. So there you can see all that moisture streaming northward. But what's interesting about this is there are a few things that I'm looking at. Number one, you've got an area of low pressure to our south. You've got an area of high pressure to our east. And then, of course, the tropical moisture from Hurricane Hillary is moving northward. So what happens is, around the flow around that area of low pressure, you've got a counterclockwise flow. What that's doing is, it's tapping into that tropical moisture, grabbing some of that moisture, and then basically pulling it from that source of moisture and moving into Northern California. That's going to be the source of the rain that we're going to see on Monday, and not to mention some of the thunderstorms. But keep in mind, the bulk of the heavier rainfall will be in this area here, off to our east and southeast over Southern California, not to mention Baja California, or Baja, Mexico. So here's what we have. Let's take you into tomorrow. So here's tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. We're beginning to see some light rain. Rain, not thunderstorms, but some light showers for Trinity County and Southern Humboldt County. This is not going to be a big deal. Okay. Now we're going to take you to about the noon hour. Now it's beginning to pick up in intensity. Heavier rainfall. Could see some isolated thunderstorms embedded in here. And there you can see even in western Siskiyou County. And still mainly in central and southern Humboldt County is where the bulk of the rain will be. But you'll notice not terribly heavy. Now you can see here through the afternoon, it's going to kind of stall out. It's because it's the rotation around the area of low pressure, which is doing something like this, right? So over here, you're not getting it because you're not caught up in that flow. So we're seeing most of it in this area right here. Now, this is where I think we're going to see some pretty good rainfall, probably over an inch. We may even talk about the potential for some flash flooding with some of these storms that do develop. We saw that yesterday on Saturday with some of those storms. Certainly not out of the question, especially in Siskiyou County, but we can't rule some of that flash flooding possibly even in Trinity County. Meanwhile, again, not very heavy for central and southern Humboldt County, just some of those showers out there. Now, it starts to wrap up by Monday night, 10 p.m. Still a few showers out there. But by Tuesday, here's what's going to happen. Here's what I think is going to happen. 5 p.m. on Tuesday, you see how we're seeing a few pop-ups? We've got leftover moisture, and if we see enough clearing, especially the first half of the day, we could see a pop-up shower, and it's not out of the question for an isolated thunderstorm as well. But bottom line, the bulk of it will be on Monday, and then Tuesday, maybe some leftover sprinkles or light showers popping up. And then it's dry after that. So let's take a look at those forecast rain totals. And you can see taking you through the day on Monday, that's the bulk of the rain. And what we're really seeing here is about a half an inch on average for most of us in the valley and to the eastern mountains. But see, remember I was talking about, you saw that kind of flow here on the northwest flank of that area of low pressure, seeing some heavier rainfall, over an inch possibly in Mount Shasta, Wairika, maybe even around Etna as well. But there you can see even parts of Trinity County getting over a half of an inch. And you see how we're seeing much less rainfall as you head into Del Norte and Humboldt counties. So here it is. This right here is, of course, Hillary. Hillary is going to continue to move mainly up to the north. And again, you can see the track. It's off to our east. So the winds and the rain associated with it, yes, the rain is going to have an impact on us, but the winds, not so much. And you'll see here in a second here. Let's take a look at what we've got going on here. Something happened there, but there you can see the rain. So there's most of the rain off to our east. But remember I was mentioning we're going to be tapping into some of that moisture and we're looking at some of that rain in Northern California for Monday. Now, there you can see the heaviest rainfall is right here, the track of the storm, right? It weakens significantly as it moves northward. That's why you're not seeing as much rain in northern portions of Nevada northward. But again, we're tapping into some of that, giving us some decent rain for parts of Northern California. So let's talk about the winds. Same situation. Usually on the eastern side is where we're going to have those stronger winds, and then it kind of tracks more to the north and east. So we look at the wind forecast. They're the strongest winds over Southern California this evening and tonight. Then they work their way into Monday morning with some very gusty winds in Nevada. But look at us. Not much going on in the way of winds. And we take even to Monday afternoon, those winds still picking up here in Nevada, but not much going on for us. So we dodged a bullet with the winds. We could certainly use the rain. We're not dodging the bullet with the potential for lightning strikes, but at least we're not seeing a wind pattern that's going to be over all of Northern California, creating problems for everyone dealing with the fires. Okay, so we can at least be grateful for that. And hopefully we can get some really good rain on top of those fires without much in the way of lightning strikes. So you can see those wave heights still fairly high. In fact, at some points, they're going to get up to about 12 feet. So we look at that marine forecast. North winds at 10 to 20 knots, waves from the northwest at 11 feet at about 10 seconds. And there's a hazardous seas warning here for your Monday, essentially. All right, so here's a look at the Humboldt County Fair. You know, talking about all this rain, we're not going to get much rain out at the county fair. Maybe a few showers on Monday, but overall, it's going to be dry for Tuesday, Wednesday. So, of course, we've got the fair going on all next week, so looks like we have some pretty good weather for it. So here's what we have in store for us tonight. We're going to see those clouds move in, but really not much in the way of rain tonight. It's tomorrow morning that the rain moves in, maybe some thunderstorms and some heavy rainfall at times for parts of Trinity County. And as you start heading westward, you're seeing less and less rain, but still some decent rain for parts of the inland areas. Down to Garberville, a high of 67, and temperatures in the mid to upper 60s out along the coast. All right, you still with me? Here's a look at your 7-day forecast. And what we're seeing here, Crescent City, not much in the way of rain. You may see a sprinkle on Monday, but I wouldn't count on much, if anything. And it's dry for the next 7 days. We take you to Hoopa. Chance for showers and thunderstorms, especially in Trinity County. Chances are still slim on Tuesday. I'm putting that chance in there. But honestly, there's a very good chance I may be taking that out over the next 24 hours or so. And then it's dry and cooler, taking you through next week. Here's your 7-day outlook for Eureka. Not bad. Temperatures in the mid-60s. And then it looks like a few showers on Monday, but not much. And then it's dry for Tuesday all the way through the end of next week, and not to mention next weekend.